Hello friends, this is Odds. I sweated on my mum, and today I want to share with you the results of the experiments that we've been doing over at my stream for the last couple weeks, and what I think they mean for myself and my view on the game. For a long time now, I've seen a lot of people really think and be convinced that Dead by Daylight is a really survivor-sided game. Survivors basically win by default, and Killer needs to be extremely good, extremely strong, extremely lucky to even manage to keep up. Obviously, there's a lot of examples of this. Matches where you're just completely outmatched no matter what you do. It's a really tough one. And I can sympathize with people that have a hard time playing Killer. Some disclaimers: I think Killer sometimes is really unfun. Survivors can do things to make your life absolutely miserable. I think sometimes it's very unhealthy gameplay-wise. Sometimes you can win, but at what cost? You need to do really unfun things for both sides. And I also acknowledge that some killers are definitely not as good as others, and you will definitely struggle a lot more if you're not playing some of the strongest. There's also many situations that are outside of your control, like some maps being really strong, etc., that are ultimately really hard. However, on average, do I think killers have it much worse than survivors? I personally don't think so. From my experience, and as much as I've been able to gather, I do think that in a very messed up way, this game is somewhat balanced. Killers on one side have extremely powerful tools that they can bring that immediately tip the scales to their favor. And survivors on the other side also have similar tools. And typically, this game is a back and forth of when the killer is taking it seriously and when survivors are taking it seriously. If you're playing chill killer against survivors that are in to hurt you, that bring the strongest things they can, you will typically lose. If you don't lose, at least you're going to have a really bad time winning. And if you are playing survivor and you're chilling and you're just, even with friends or by yourself, you're just playing kind of casual and you go against a killer that really went out of their way to bring the strongest things they could, your chances to win are very minuscule, in my opinion. And I wanted to prove this to the best of my ability. So what I did was I played every single killer with different conditions multiple times. The thing I'm trying to prove is that if you're experienced at the game, you can still keep a really good win score. If you bring the strongest perks in the game, you can, even someone that's not so experienced can do really well. And if you're experienced and you bring some of the strongest things like I did in some of these games, you're going to win most of your matches. So the first experiment, I played every single killer with sweaty builds. Every perk available, the best add-ons money can buy, using offerings every single game, unless I forgot, to send myself to the nastiest maps or to bring a Mori or whatever. The dirtiest thing I could think of, I did. And the results were, I think, quite devastating. We had an average of 3.85 kills. If you do not count Hatch, because Hatch doesn't give survivors positive MMR. If you don't count Hatch as an escape, literally everyone died. If you don't count Hatch, it was 100% kills. No one managed to get through the exit gates. In fact, no one even managed to power the exit gates with 5 gens. On average, they did 1.7 gens. And we also had 8 people in total disconnect because some of the builds we played and the way we played was absolutely disgusting. I will share these builds with you. If you think that killer is really hard, I would implore you to, maybe you don't even need to play all the killers. Maybe you can just pick your favorite killer, run these builds and play 10 matches in a row. I guarantee you will do super well. And if not, please tell me how it went. I would love to have a look at that. If you play like this, if you do not care about tunneling, if you do not care about survivor rules, you will 100% stump survivors on average. It is true, if you go against survivors in a tournament that know how to play it really well, that know what they're up against, they will probably put up a lot of resistance. It's not going to be so easy to get them all killed. Still, with this build, you have a really good chance almost anywhere, almost anytime to have a really good outcome. On average, I think you will kick ass. And I felt very dirty after playing this. To make up for it, we did a second experiment, which I will show you right now. In this second experiment, I still played really hard. I still played for the win as much as I could. Obviously, I made some mistakes, just like in the previous one. I didn't play it perfectly. But I didn't really play nice. However, I did use a nice build. A build that follows the survivor rulebook a little bit more. I used barbecue and chili. On every single killer, the same build. Barbecue and chili, which only does things when you hook and encourages you to hook multiple people. Pop goes the weasel, strong perk, but again, you need to hook people. Grim Embrace, a perk that literally only works if you hook everyone once before the 5th gen is popped. Hard to use it. And then No Way Out, which is a nice endgame perk, and it got to endgame very often, where I have a chance to collect some more kills if I've been hooking more people. Not so strong if I didn't hook anyone at the time. And I played all the killers up to brown add-ons. Only brown add-ons, nothing OP, nothing game-changing, and absolutely no offerings, like map offerings, Morris, nothing like that. So survivors could still send me to Harrowville, could still use their strong items. Everything was available to them. In this match, in this experiment, the gens they did pretty much doubled, but my kills did not go down too much. I still managed to kill a lot of them. The truth is, one person giving up early, one person making a big mistake with some of these builds, you can still punish them. I did lose 2 matches. One of them could have been a 2-kill, but I was a bit ambitious. I ended up only getting 1 kill. And the other one was actually really painful. It was really, really painful. I went against a survivor group with a brand new par, with Steptic, all the strong stuff that you would expect. And it felt really bad. It felt really bad. I could have maybe secured 1 kill, but because I got a little bit eager, I made a tiny mistake here and there. I wasn't really thinking straight. I unfortunately got 0 kills. And I can tell you right now that this one match, even though my previous, 40 matches I had won almost no problem, this one match left a much larger impression on me. And it really goes to show, one bad match as killer is a lot more devastating than 20 good ones. And it feels really bad. And at that time, I did not feel like I was in control. But again, you cannot take one bad match and let that be your overall experience, because then, you know, what is the point of playing multiple times and trying to get the average? Yeah, some people still rage quit. We definitely had a lot more blood points this time. Some people got through the exit gates, a couple people got the hatch. And overall, it was a pretty decent, fun time. Some of these perks don't have this best synergy, so I think that this proves that even a nice build playing somewhat nice in terms of perks, you can still do quite okay. It wasn't all that bad. And next we did the more outrageous experiment, where I really wanted to test the limits of what was possible. And this time we went with a completely empty loadout on every killer, from Trapper to Artist. We played them all with 0 offerings, 0 add-ons, 0 perks, no exception. And at the start of every match, I would count to 30 seconds on the place I spawned as soon as I realized it, and then waited for 30 seconds. Some survivors immediately jumped on gens with brand new parts or whatnot. Some survivors got a little bit scared. On average, yeah, the first few gens went by really quickly. Funnily enough, they didn't do that many more gens compared to the other one where we had some perks, so that's kind of crazy. And our kill rate, honestly, was looking kind of bad. Our first match was completely crushing defeat, and then we found out it was a cheater, so we didn't count it. And then the next match was another crushing defeat, and then the next one was another crushing defeat. But then after that, we started to play a little bit smart. We started making fewer mistakes, and obviously, we took any shortcut we could. Tunneling, if it was possible, I did it. Slugging everyone as soon as possible, if I think I can get away with it, I would have absolutely no problem doing that. I played as dirty as I possibly could, and if I could secure a kill, I would secure it. If I could fight for 2 kills, I would. It didn't really matter to me what I had to do. I played as ravenously ambitious, but also trying to keep a good average. And I think from the top of my head, we only had a couple matches where we lost many survivors. On average, I could almost always, except I think one match, I could almost always secure 1 kill. 2 kills is more rare, but yeah, typically I also try to slug for the 4K so that the average would be as high as possible, and we could get as many 4 kills as possible. Overall, we had an average of 3.15 kills. Obviously, you see a lot more people taking hatch, a lot more people escaping, which, let's be real, is completely, which is exactly what you would expect. But here's the thing. Yes, I lose a lot of gens. Yes, I cannot go for many hooks. Yes, the survivors do not have a lengthy, fun game where everyone gets to loot me a bunch. Yes, we don't really get to explore. It wouldn't matter to me. I would tunnel a person out of the game. I would down everyone as soon as I could. I would injure people so that they couldn't go for rescues, force people to go to second stage, force people to die on the hook, evaluate the situation at the end game the best I could to try to squeeze extra kills anywhere I could. And obviously, I also made some mistakes, but I think I played almost to the best of my ability. And we still, after all of that, we still had an average of over 3 kills, which by any stretch is a win. Now, some people, you know, have not enjoyed this. They are telling me that, oh, but you have a lot of hours in the game. If someone else did this, well, they wouldn't get this. And I completely understand that. That's maybe true, but you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. This is what you should be complaining about. You should be complaining about that the game has a stale meta, that the game rewards you for tunneling and camping, which I did plenty of, that the game has very unbalanced maps, very unbalanced items. You should not be complaining that the game is survivor-sided, because that is not true. If you want to play like an absolute scumbag, you can do it, and do it very consistently, and do it very, very strongly. So I would really invite people that feel that this game is survivor-sided to consider this, and maybe change their view and not think of survivors as the strongest survivors always, because survivors have a lot of people that are not really invested, that are doing their archives, people that are playing solo and are completely out of their mind when they make certain plays, and you take advantage of that as a killer. You are not going to be playing on average against a 4-man party every single time that knows exactly what they're doing, that has absolutely no weak links anywhere. And I think on average you can do really well. And take any of the builds that you'll find in the description that I used with the strongest things available, and tell me that you're not doing well. And perhaps then I would change my mind a little bit more. Now, a few comments. Unfortunately, I have to see and read some people speculate that I did this with a lower MMR, that I don't play so good, that I am just bad at the game, and I am playing against stupid, bad survivors. To which I would say, okay, dude, sure. I'm sure your survivors are great. Someone actually was kind enough to watch all of my killer matches from the previous 6 days before I attempted this last experiment. And my average kills overall were 3.5. In experiments, outside experiments, on average, I was getting 3.5 kills per stream or so. So how come my MMR be low? Some people also speculate, and this is kind of funny to think about, that I D-rank off stream. That I spent 8 hours playing the game, and then I spent another, what, 5 or 6 hours playing the same off stream and losing off stream? How can I do that? When do I sleep? Do I have someone else just get up and drive to my home and play on my account, and then just go AFK for 20 matches straight on every killer, because every killer has different MMR? I do that. And then if I do that, how is there not one person that's calling me out on it? You would only need one example of me doing that stuff off stream for you to know that I am throwing. Not to mention the fact that even though despite the MMR is hidden, we are playing against players that have 10,000 hours every now and then. I am playing against survivors that I recognize, that I know are good survivors. The truth is, and if you haven't figured this out yet, let me enlighten you, hopefully. The truth is, MMR, as much as we might hate it, doesn't work the way some people think it works. The MMR will try to pair you with people that are close to your skill, yes. But it often does absolutely nothing of the sort. And you will be playing one match against a survivor that is absolutely insanely good at the game. And the next match, or in that same match, you will have another survivor that has barely scratched the surface, that has barely started playing, and that somehow has found their way to your lobby. I think on average, if you consider all of that, survivors don't necessarily have it much easier. Now, you could argue, but odds, what happens if you just take this to the highest level? Maybe you are an experienced killer, but you're not playing against experienced survivors all of the time. What if you were playing as a very good killer against very good survivors? Don't you think that then the game would be very survivor-sided? And the answer, some time ago, I would have said, yeah, maybe. Right now, I'm not even sure about that. We had a fellow content creator named Wispy on Twitch who hosted a massive and really entertaining experiment. They made a tournament where survivors were allowed anything, and this is very rare in tournaments. In tournaments, typically, there's a lot of restrictions on perks, items, and so on. Well, this time, survivors could bring absolutely anything, and Killer, on the other side, also could bring anything. So Killers brought Morties, survivors brought brand new parts, styptic agents, syringes. Obviously, everyone was running Decisive, everyone was running Dead Hard, everyone was running BT, all of the strong perks on all sides. And funnily enough, the Killers did pretty good. The average kills in this tournament was very close to 2, which is what some people would say is the balance, right? 2 people out, 2 people killed. That should be the ideal middle. So it turns out that when you play killer at a very high level, playing the strongest killers, obviously, against really disgustingly good survivors with the most terribly meta perks available, you can still, on average, not obviously every game, but on average, get a 2-kill average. That is nuts. And trust me, you would not want to play like that, and you would not want to play against that. And that is maybe the biggest issue with the game right now. But that doesn't make the game unbalanced in one side's favor. That's, I think, what I've been trying to get at, the point I've been trying to make. On top of this, I also have another experiment that I'd love to have your input on. I will be coaching a new player to DBD who has barely never played it, and one player I will be coaching as a survivor. I'm not the best survivor, but I'll do my best. And another player I'll be coaching as a killer. And I will see how they are doing. So we can see when someone gets a bit of teaching and a little bit of advice, after a few hours, how well our survivor, who is completely new, does, and how well our killer, who is completely new, does. And perhaps we'll be able to reach some conclusions. Some other disclaimers. I know that boom totems, I know that this, I know that that. I know a lot of things have gotten much harder for killer lately. So if you're not having fun as a killer and your matches seem really, really difficult, please don't think I'm trying to remove or neglect your experience. I completely understand you. I would just really prefer if, instead of having this this us versus them side mentality, you would address and complain about the right things that are killing your fun. The thing that's killing your fun is not survivors playing survivor. The thing that's killing your fun is not two dudes playing with their friends and goofing in their matches. The thing that's killing your fun is probably these really nuclear options on both sides that makes everyone be on the edge, that makes everyone want to secure kills, that makes everyone want to do the gens and get out. And hopefully we can send that message to the devs instead of sending them mixed signals of like, oh, killers are strong, survivors are strong, nerf the pig. But yeah, that's all of it. And I'll be updating you on how these coaching sessions go. They will also be taking place on Twitch. And if you have ideas or suggestions as to what you would like to learn as a new killer or as a new survivor, please let me know in the comments. I will be checking them religiously because I really want to guide these people into having a lot of fun and hopefully doing well in their respective roles. That's all from me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.